Hi, I'm Dr. Amy Mount. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction for Gateway Regional, National Park, and Westville School Districts in Gloucester County, New Jersey. The topic of my conversation today is empathy at the heart, design thinking in times of crisis. Public education, as we know it, was structured in the 1830s under the reforms of Horace Mann. Things we experience now in public schools as normal, the age-alike classrooms, the distinct content area subjects, were established nearly 200 years ago, and with the exception of upgraded technology, very little has structurally changed. If Horace Mann time traveled from the 1830s to February 2020, he would have had very little difficulty in recognizing teaching and learning in schools. And then came March 2020. And suddenly, everything is different. With less than 2 weeks' notice, we reinvented nearly 200 years of public education. So it's little wonder that we're all exhausted and frazzled. Tossed from our familiar routines, virtual schooling is a strange new normal for all of us, educators, parents, and students alike. And finding ways to be successful in virtual education means that we all need to take a long, hard look at our experiences and our expectations. Here are my own two little virtual learners. David is 7, and he's in 2nd grade at Marsh River Township Elementary School in Cumberland County. His favorite part of virtual learning so far has been video chatting with his amazing teacher, Mrs. Rebecca Papa. Avonlea is 2, and that's her computer, so she can sit next to me and work alongside of me when I'm working. Her favorite part of working from home is that Mommy has abandoned all efforts to break the binky habit for the duration of the COVID-19 crisis because I just can't do one more thing. In this unprecedented crisis, we need to cultivate empathy now more than ever. Empathy is the act of seeing and understanding from another person's point of view. Beyond kindness or sympathy, it's stepping outside of oneself and making a conscious choice to experience as someone else. As George Bernard Shaw said, it's not about doing as you would have done to you, it's understanding what someone else would prefer have done unto them. Empathy is a core habit of mind for leaders and educators. Often we chose education as a vocation because of our innate desire to help others and to fix problems. However, that well-intended desire to help and to fix sometimes gets in the way of providing authentic, meaningful leadership in the ways that people need. So here's a concrete example of designing and leading with empathy in mind. Designing a baby mobile. I want you to pretend for a moment that you're leading a project to design the best baby mobile on the market. Here are my own two little ones when they were fresh brand new newborns for your inspiration. I want you to pause the video and think for a second, what would the absolute best mobile look like? Your mobile may have looked something like this. You probably thought of a really cute motif to fit with a nursery theme, like owls or animals or cars or rocket ships. Your mobile probably had really bright colors and an attractive arrangement of shapes. I bet it looked really good when you took a picture of it. But this is probably what the baby saw. It's an entirely different experience for the user than it is for the designer. Leading and designing with empathy helps us create experiences that are more useful and engaging to the user. Design thinking in a time of crisis can really help all of us figure out the best ways to meet the needs of our stakeholders. Design thinking is a mindset that can help us systematically understand, teach, learn, and apply human-centered techniques to solve problems in a creative and innovative way. In the first step of design thinking, we seek to understand the needs of the user. We put ourselves in the user's shoes and think about their wants, their needs, and their motivations. The second step is to define the problem, not only for our perspective, but also from the perspective of our users. In this step, we challenge assumptions and the status quo. Further steps involve brainstorming and pushing to new ideas and new possibilities, developing new products and solutions, and testing our ideas. Given that we are in a new world where we don't really know exactly what we're doing, The design thinking process is absolutely critical to help us design virtual learning that's going to meet the needs of all of our learners. Empathy is often something that we need to seek. As we begin the process, we need to develop a habit of assuming a beginner's mindset when we're confronted with a challenge. We need to seek to gain empathy with the people that we are designing for so that we can develop and gain fresh inspiration before we jump straight to an immediate solution or we revert to an approach that has worked in the past. And empathy requires that we challenge our assumptions. We assume that we know what we need for virtual learning to be successful for teachers and students based on our own experiences as teachers and as students. And while many best practices in education will continue to be best practices, there are also practices that will need to be confronted and altered as we continue in the virtual learning space. One of the best ways to develop empathy is to ask our users how they experience our products. User experience surveys are very useful. Through conducting user experience surveys, we can gather information, uncover bright spots and pain points, and reveal how the user experience aligns or doesn't align with our solutions and our assumptions. It's helpful to ask both Likert scale style questions and open-ended questions. Our district's Gateway National Park in Westville conducted user experience surveys for both parents or students and the faculty. Our survey questions included Goldilocks style questions, providing a scale from too little to too much, and asking about the time spent in virtual learning, the difficulty of the assignments provided, the levels of interactions and communication from the teachers and from the school. We also asked open-ended questions about the challenges and the positives of virtual learning, as well as current worries and future concerns. Our open-ended responses were then coded so that we could discover common themes and insights that we're now using to help shape our work as we move forward. Another way to develop empathy is to use an empathy map graphic organizer. Using this graphic organizer, you can use it one of two ways. Either you can consider your current reality or you can plan for future solutions. In either case, you're going to consider what the user thinks or feels either now or what you hope to do in the future, sees and hears, says and does, what are the current pain points and bright spots, or what do you hope would be current future bright spots. You can use this to evaluate a number of different aspects. The Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley offers these 6 habits to cultivate greater empathy skills. Cultivating a mindset of curiosity, being willing to challenge prejudice and so that we can discover commonalities, trying on another person's life and their experiences, listening, inspiring action, and developing an imagination. Of all of these, I think number 4 is the most important. Truly listening, not just to respond, but to understand. Once we've empathized with our user, we're then ready to define our problem with detail and begin brainstorming solutions. That's in the ideate phase. When we ideate, we're looking to generate a diverse set of ideas. So this is really a leap of faith into unexplored territory to come up with things that are really new and inspiring. And often this means getting really uncomfortable. We're getting really comfortable with ambiguity and seeking out things that may be untested and unfamiliar to us and to our teams. One strategy to do this is asking how might we questions. From our user experience survey, we knew that more than 54% of our employees have school-aged children at home. So in designing our virtual learning experiences, one of the how might we questions we needed to ask was about how might we structure the expectations for our employees so that they could both effectively support their students and take care of their own children at home. Parents and students indicated that the biggest challenge in virtual learning was the lack of a direct instruction. So we asked how might we find ways to increase direct instruction opportunities. One of the positives that came out of virtual learning is that parents and students noted they really enjoyed self-paced and independent learning. So we're asking how might we carry forward some of those self-paced and independent learning activities. Crucial to answering any of these how might we questions was involving multiple stakeholders in developing the answers. And particularly, we really worked with teachers to help us craft flexible schedules and clear solutions based on some of these brainstorming ideas. Because I love this quote from Richard Branson. There are amazing opportunities all around us. We just need to say yes. And if we're not sure how to do it now, just say yes and figure it out later. Another great exercise for this is the yes and exercise. Instead of saying no or yes but, try a yes and. When you're brainstorming all of these creative new ideas, it's very easy to poke holes in them and find reasons why they can't work. But it's very expansive as a leader and encourages participation if you train yourself instead of saying no or yes but to really work on saying yes and then coming up with some of the solutions. From our survey, 1/3 of our students indicated that they are working on their virtual learnings in the evenings. And so we asked how might we question them, how might we support them in the evenings? It would be very easy to say, no, we can't, or yeah, we'd like to, but our teachers aren't on contract at that time. Instead, we worked on yes, and we need to work with the association to find a way to offer teachers choice of when they could support. We knew that some teachers would be working with students off of contract hours anyway, and so if we developed a flexible schedule where teachers set their own hours, they could offer some choices, some evening choices for students that would work. We're all very fond in the Gateway group of saying that we're building the plane while we're flying that, and this really has not been more true than this virtual learning experience. We've been very transparent from the beginning with our teachers, with our community, that we don't have all the answers to virtual learning because this is a brand new experience. And we've had really, really positive feedback from everyone that taking that stance has really opened up and encouraged them to try new things and their own willingness to experiment and learn as we're all moving together. The last step in design thinking is prototyping for quick learning. So, assuming a mindset of low risk, quick, and easy experimentation allows us to try new and unproven ideas and then evolve them as we're going forward. Like the flying the airplane, we don't know exactly what we're doing with virtual learning because this is also brand new. And so, when we adopt the stance that we are working on it and we will continually improve, it makes it much more easy to adjust when we need to. So none of our school leadership programs trained us for how to support educators and teachers as they work from home. We knew from our user experience surveys and conversations with our faculty that some of their biggest concerns were how to manage the working from home experience. So we needed to get to work to find some tips and research to be able to help. One of my most influential mentors was famous for saying, "How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time." And that's been really good advice for me personally as I manage my own working from home. I found that nearly everything I do takes me 2 or 3 times as long to complete work because I'm constantly interrupted by someone who needs a snack or help with their work or needs a snuggle before their nap, or I need something shared from someone else that I now need to text or email when before I could just pop down the hallway and stick my head in their office. This can be really overwhelming, but I know that I'm not alone in this feeling. And so I'm constantly reminding myself just one bite at a time, and I encourage you to do the same. In our user survey, many of the faculty commented that their biggest worry right now was about being enough or doing enough. And this both breaks my heart that my people feel this way, but it's also very deeply familiar to me as I'm also really struggling with not feeling very productive or on top of things, certainly not as I would if things were back to normal. As leaders, as parents, as spouses, as partners, as family members, we need to acknowledge that we are currently in the middle of a global crisis and that this is a traumatic experience for all of us. This is not business as usual, and we can't hold the same expectations and standards as we would if it were business as usual. I encourage you to consider what success looks like for you professionally and personally now. It's okay and normal for that not to be the same as it was 2 months ago. And it's okay and normal that it won't be the same 2 months from now. As we all adjust, so too will our metrics for success adjust. So I want you to pause and take a minute to really reflect. What does success look like for you today personally? And what does success look like for you today professionally? Don't think about what it would have been if this were February or January, but what do you need to do to take care of yourself today personally and professionally? Take a minute and think about that before we continue. As I said, I've been doing a lot of research on tips for managing remote employees since none of my school leadership classes prepared me for that. At the end of this, I have linked two really good articles, one from the Harvard Business Review and one from the Forbes Coaches Council on tips for managing remote employees. And some of the advice that I've found includes scheduling structured check-in times, offering multiple modes of communication channels, and establishing working from home boundaries, including times for working so that people don't feel like they need to work around the clock. Other tips include emphasizing and encouragement and emotional support, like taking a break in the middle of the day if you need to. A few weeks ago, I had a county curriculum consortium meeting, and in the middle of the meeting, my 2-year-old came to me with a sticker shoved all the way up her nose. By the time I pinned her down and got the sticker out of her nose, I needed a break. I needed to walk away from the day. And I knew that my superintendent would understand and support my decision to take care of myself and my kids and to go out and play instead of coming back to that meeting. Some of your employees need to explicitly hear from you that it's okay to take a break if they need to take a break. Some of the other tips include finding ways to encourage remote social interaction. We're actually running a virtual cooking competition to connect and share our recipes since we're all cooking from home more. The most important tips on this list, though, I think are the last three. Trust your people and presume positive intent always. They want to do the right thing. Focus on your goals and outcomes instead of minutes of productivity, and stay true to your core mission and vision. Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, gave a really interesting interview about corporate responsibility and his decision early on in the crisis to continue paying his employees throughout the shutdown. He said that how companies treat their employees during the crisis will become what they're known for, and I think this is true also of schools and school districts. What do your policies and practices in this crisis say about your school or say about you as a leader? It's been our hope at Gateway, Westville, and National Park that we are known for continuing to provide a great education to all of our students, that we recognize issues of equity and are working very hard to provide equitable access to all of our students, but most importantly of all, that we value connections and relationships, and we promote the well-being of all of our stakeholders, students and staff alike. We're going to wrap up this short workshop with a short mindful visualization activity. For this, you're going to need to get a piece of paper and a pen. If you have kiddos with you, they can join in on this as well. That's great. So if you need to pause the video to go get a piece of paper and a pen, go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that you have your pen and your paper, if you are ready, we will begin. So you've been cooped up in your house for a while now, and it's only befitting that this exercise is going to involve building a house. But it's not as easy as it sounds. I'm going to call out the directions, and you are going to draw. And you can't lift your pen off of the paper, and your eyes must be closed the entire time. Now, obviously, I can't see you, so we are on the honor system here. I am presuming positive intent and trusting that you will engage in this exercise authentically. So if you've got your paper and your pen, go ahead and close your eyes. As leaders, it's important for us to create a safe place for our team so that when we bring them into our side of the house, they have safety and security to speak up and to speak out without fear. I want you to draw a square representing the foundation and the framing of your house. It's our job as leaders to provide safety along with vision to the team, and that starts from the top. Draw a triangle on top of the square representing the roof. As leaders, we must keep the door open to our team, not just for direction, but also for refuge from the difficult stuff that comes their way throughout the day. draw a door inside the square on the right. In order to empathize with our stakeholders, we have to see things from their perspective, not ours. So draw a window inside the square to the left of the door. Now, for our data and accountability leads, let's face it, we were all hired to help our schools and districts grow and compete and improve, right? Well, as leaders, in order for the organization to grow, we must be able to take care of the people, to tend to them, to nurture and water their emotional well being. So I want you to draw a tree to the left of your square. Leading isn't easy and the journey is hard sometimes. It takes a tremendous amount of focus and energy. So I want you to draw a bright sun to the right of the house. Now, again, leading isn't easy, and we know that it's often a thankless and lonely job. And yet, we can't do this alone. We all need support. To that end, draw yourself and your strongest well being champion, whether that's a spouse or a boss or a colleague or a pet, outside of the square to the right. And finally, before you open your eyes and likely see that the sun has burnt a hole in your roof or you have an oversized tree in your living room in the house you are leading for your team, it's important that your team sees you as showing up authentically and honestly equal, because while your roles may be in different positions on an org chart, empathy for a fellow human being should not. Being vulnerable is a key part of leadership, because that's when a house becomes a home. At the bottom, in the center, sign your name. Now open your eyes and admire your beautiful house. I encourage you to hang your picture up somewhere as a reminder to you of your purpose, of your value, and of your leadership. Put it up on the fridge with your kids' artwork or next to the makeshift home office you have cobbled together in your dining room or in your bedroom. I want to thank you again. My name is Dr. Amy Mount. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction for Gateway National Park in Westville. You can find me on Twitter at MSMRocks. You can email me at any time at amount@gatewayhs.com. The link to this slide deck with the resources at the end is available at bit.ly empathy at the heart. Thank you so much. I encourage you to empathize, to lead with design. I hope that you stay well and that you find some silver linings in this virtual learning experience.